I want to welcome you to our second debate, the series of 5, with the candidates for the District 2 Park County Commissioner. And if you don't already know, Park County is divided into 3 districts, and a commissioner comes from each district, all elected at large, and which is the reason we're having the debates. And Hartsville was last week, and Bailey tonight. Thursday, I think, is Guffey. And next Tuesday is Fair Play, and then Lake George is the following Thursday. And I want to welcome you here. And first, I'd like to recognize Mike Brazell, who's one of our current commissioners. And concerning the, I'm going to go through a brief summary of what the rules are for the debate. And to begin with, we had this debate is sponsored by the PCRCC, or the Park County Republican Central Committee. And what we did was we had the committee submit questions to a questions committee. Okay, that's the best name I could come up with it. And each of those questions was reviewed to make sure they met certain qualifications. I am going to need my glasses. Right here. Here's the qualifications for the questions. So they should be related to specific issues within Park County. The only exceptions are questions relating to a candidate's qualifications or philosophies by which they make their decisions. There's no personal questions, no gotcha type questions. No questions relating to a candidate's preference for a presidential candidate. The primary reason for that is the PCRCC bylaws prohibit anyone on the executive committee publicly stating who their preference is in a contested primary. Questions cannot be directed to a particular candidate, and the reason for that is primarily to do away with gotcha questions. And so those are the only requirements for the questions. The questions committee reviewed all questions to make sure they fit within this, and then they consolidated them, did it away with redundancies. And then the same thing has happened with you guys who submitted questions tonight. We have 9, I think it was 9 questions that were submitted. And our parliamentarian over here, Brian Beasley, reviewed them to make sure that they met these same requirements. And all of them were accepted, none were rejected. And the way we'll do it is the first 2 questions are going to come from the questions submitted by the committee. And those questions have been split into 5 categories. Okay? And the reason we did that is we learned from the Hartsville debate, we kept pulling questions from the same category, and we beat a horse to death. All right? And there were questions that needed to be talked about because they were really important. However, we're trying to get a more broad spectrum. And so we have land use, qualifications, vision, economy, and infrastructure are the 5 categories. And we actually selected at random which category would go first. The candidate speaking first will draw the question from that category, and then I will read it. We flip coins to determine who's going to go first. By the way, this is Dick Elsner, and this is Lynda James. All right, 2 candidates. And we flipped a coin to see who was going to go first. And that Lynda James won that coin toss, and she elected to go first. So she'll give an opening statement of 5 minutes. Then Dick will. Then we'll go to the first question. And she'll have 2 minutes. Then second candidate will have 2 minutes. Then 1 minute. And then 1 minute. Okay. And after we go through the questions from the audience, we go to the ones from the committee, if I happen to pull out a question from the committee that is the same as what has already been asked, I will ask the candidate's permission to go on so we don't have to answer the same thing again. All right? So, with that, and this is the bell. All right? Last time I had a hammer. This time I thought I'd use this. All right? So, with that, the timekeeper are these 2 gentlemen in the back. They are tag teaming, and they've got signs, and they'll put up 1 minute, 30 seconds, 15 seconds, and stop in big red letters. So you're going to be right back there. So that's where they'll be. And when the candidates see 15 seconds, they'll start winding down so they're done when that stop sign goes up. with that, I believe we'll get started. And Lynda, welcome you up here to provide your opening statement.
I thank you all for coming tonight and showing that you're involved in the county government. It is citizen involvement that is the backbone of democracy. I'm running for county commissioner because I love Park County and I believe that I have more to give. Being a volunteer and working with various organizations and committees for the betterment of Park County has been my biggest reward. From the north to the south, the east and the west, each area of Park County is unique. The county's diversity also extends to its residents, their issues and desires. Residents have said over the years that some of their biggest concerns are keeping our water and its quality from decreasing as the county grows and the Front Range grows. Government intrusion into our lives with more and more regulations, the impacts from wildfires and mining issues, and being able to protect their homes and their communities. And also, of course, finding solutions to the Park County roads. Other concerns are about benefits and impacts of tourism, loss of wildlife habitat and healthy streams, development that brings high impacts, our quality of life, the local economy and businesses that provide jobs, the availability of recycling, cell phone, and internet access. I started volunteering in Park County 22 years ago, and I had many of those same concerns. I'm still involved today because I truly enjoy working with others, finding common ground and solutions to issues that affect us all. It has been a deep honor and a joy to serve Park County and its citizens, both as a volunteer and as a county commissioner in the late 1990s. Because I've advocated for Park County locally, regionally, and at the state level, I have good working relationships with many entities like Denver Water, Trout Unlimited, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, both the state and federal Forest Service, the BLM, and 3 different councils of governments. Please look at my flyer. They're laying over on a table over there by the candy for a list of the past and present organizations that I've been a part of. Recently, I have helped develop the South Platte Basin Implementation Plan that is in the Colorado Water Plan with the mapping skills of Gary Nichols, who is now Park County's Recreation Director. The 60-member roundtable that I belong to approved recognizing Park County's water resources in specific areas as important to the basin. Our recreation areas, which are a big contributor to our economy, and sensitive environmental areas such as wetlands that protect our water quality, were included. I was part of a stakeholder group that developed recommendations on BLM's proposed South Park Oil and Gas Master Leasing Plan. I'm the chair of the Park County Land and Water Trust Fund. That's our sales tax money. The board has helped Shawnee Water improve the ditch gates and Fair Play purchase augmentation water so that they both are now in compliance with state law. Funds also help protect water quality on the Middle Fork, at Fair Play and Alma, at the Guffey Gorge, and also at Guffey Gorge on 4 Mile, and Terrial near Como. We have also tested for water quality in both surface and groundwater throughout the county. We've helped 15 ranchers complete conservation easements that keep the water on the land forever, including the Deer Valley Park Association, which is better known as the Woodward Ranch right over here. Stream improvements and fish habitat throughout the county was also funded, including the North Fork at McGraw Park down in Bailey, and helped obtain Wounded Warrior River access at Hartselle. Some of the things I helped create in the past include Park County Historic Preservation Commission, the 2001 Strategic Master Plan, Wildlife 1041 regulations for new subdivisions, and was a big part of the joint defense that kept Aurora from taking South Park's groundwater out of the county. I have tried to live my life by the words of Teddy Roosevelt, do what you can with what you have where you are. and I still have ideas to offer and things to do as the county moves forward. So no matter what happens in this election, I will be serving Park County in many ways for years to come. I consider it a privilege and an honor to be your Park County Commissioner, and I humbly ask for your vote on June 28th. Thank you.
I'd like to also thank everyone for coming out on this, beautiful, lovely spring day, sunshine and all that good stuff. I'm Dick Elsner. I'm running for Park County Commissioner. A little bit about myself. I've lived in Park County for 37 years. I'm a fourth generation Coloradan. I've been married for 42 years to my wife Debbie, who's sitting over here and tries to keep me in line. We have 3 grown children, all of who went through the Platte Canyon School District, so we really understand the issues with the school district. Deb served as the president of the school board for 6 years and served on the school board for 10 years. So we've been involved in Park County for quite a while. I helped start Little League in this area a long time ago because my kids were a lot younger. I also coached a midget football team, tried to get it going. I think we had that going for 4 or 5 years, and kids got older and we didn't have as many midget football players running around. I've been chair of the PCRCC for 8 years, which is the Park County Republican Central Committee. I was first elected, close election. Every election, well, then the next election wasn't nearly as close, and I didn't have anybody run against me the last 2 elections because of what we have done with the Park County Republicans and making them a much more successful organization. On the state level, I was elected to serve on the State Party Executive Committee. I was elected by the 54 other small counties as their representative, which it's always a battle when you get 54 small county people together trying to figure out what they all agree on, but I was elected to that. I serve as the chair of the State Audit Committee, so I'm responsible for making sure the books are proper for the state. Because of those things, I've created several contacts at the state level. Our Lincoln Day dinner, we have had our state treasurer, our secretary of state, our attorney general. We've had Mike Kaufman, a congressman, Doug Lamborn, a congressman. It just goes down the list. This last time we had our state senator from next door because our state senator couldn't make it because he was up in Clear Creek. Park County is a really diverse area. If you look at it, you've got a very large ranching community over the other side of the pass. We hope to have tourism. I know on a Sunday afternoon, if you're driving from Bailey to Denver, you wish we had less tourism because of the road issues. We have some mining, and what used to be called, they probably come up with a new name for it, bedroom communities. And these just aren't here. I mean, if you look at Alma and Fairplay, they have people that work over in Summit County. If you go down to Guffey, you have people that go down to Canyon City. If you get over to the west side of the county, in the parcel subdivisions over there, you have people that work in Buena Vista. And then of course over here we have our largest group, which is all of us that drive down to Denver every day and back, commuting to Denver. 62% of the people in Park County don't work in Park County. On this side, I think it's a little higher than that. Everybody has to commute. Why do we live in Park County? Well, quiet. That's one of the big things that people talk about. Lower taxes. I know if you picked up my house and moved it a couple of miles and put it in Jefferson County, I'd be paying twice the taxes I pay in Park County. Fewer regulations. Well, that's why we moved here. And recently, the fewer regulations part of it has gone away. If you take a look, our LURs that we have are 400 pages. It's really difficult to figure out what you can and can't do. Teller County is 147, Gilpin is 57. We have problems with code enforcement. That's always an issue. We need to really concentrate on code enforcement. We started on the marijuana, but we haven't been able to follow through. If you get over to Hartselle, they have an issue with illegal camping. We need to figure out that. think the way that we are currently running the Park County government is kind of reneging on the promise that Park County can provide. We've got a great county here. We've got lots of opportunity, but we need to really try to rein in some of the regulations that are killing business. I think that's all the time I'm going to have right now. Thank you again, and I hope you support me. Thank you.
I was remiss in stating prior to they started that the guidelines for the debate were agreed upon by both candidates. And in order to save time and disruption, part of the rules is not to have applause and things like that and reactions from the audience. And primarily that is just to keep an even flow going and give the candidates all their time they need to speak. So we drew at last the first question from the PCRCC questions. It came out to be qualifications. And this is this box right here. If you just want to pull out one of these questions. Thank you. First question. Discuss your perceptions of the duties of the county commissioner.
The state has given the county commissioners two basic duties. That is to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the county residents and to adopt and manage a budget. So those are the first two top priorities. Of course, the county commissioner has a lot of other duties too, and there are many meetings to go to, like Colorado Counties Incorporated, and there's also a lot of interaction between the local government in Park County and our neighboring counties, and we do work together on a lot of issues. There are certain things that are required by the state state revised statutes as well, such as having a road and bridge department, having a sheriff's department, all the elected officials, and levying taxes, and also human services is a required department. So those all need to be functioning. We also, let's see, a county commissioner also, I just went blank there on what I was thinking. They also have lots of employees to manage, and in the case of the commissioners now, they have a county administrator that does most of that, which has taken a burden off of them. But personally, I would like to see county commissioners a little more involved with the public than what they have been recently. And that, to me, is one of the most important things.
Did you read the question again?
Yeah. Discuss the perceptions, your perceptions of the duties of the county commissioner.
Lynda's right. The state basically defines what county commissioner is supposed to do, but they define it in a very broad way. Safety, health of the people. To me, a county commissioner is someone who comes from the community and understands the community needs, priorities, where the budget should go, and the issues. At that point, they then take that and look at, we have all of the county departments. What is the best way to utilize the tax dollars and the resources we have to run the county? They look at regulations. Land use regulations is a big one. They bring their expertise, their knowledge of what the community wants to incorporate land use regulations that fit the community. The idea that, well, budget. You've got to have a budget, but the county commissioners are the ones that have to shuffle around. If you look at all of our elected officials, their salaries are set by the state. That money comes out. then you take a look at what is it going to take to run your department. The county commissioners are the ones that should be sitting there saying, this is the type of department we can afford, this is what you and your elected position as county clerk can do. They are a guidance to how the county should operate. They're the ones that will be making the rules as far as the laws, the regulations that people need to follow. And they're the ones that need to communicate with everybody to tell them this is the way the county is moving, this is why the county is moving that way, and to be able to tell people that don't get what they want, why they can't have it.
Yes, as I was saying when my 2 minutes was up, I believe the most important thing for a county commissioner is to involve the residents, to encourage the citizens to take an active part. We have a lot of volunteer boards in the county, and those positions are very valuable, and they give good advice to the county commissioners. Some of them are the Planning Commission, the Historical Preservation Commission. I forgot I only have a minute here. So the state statutes do require a strategic master plan as well, and require land use regulations, but that is about it. And as far as the budget goes, the elected officials and the departments are allowed to prepare their own budget. The county commissioners may state a % increase that they could have over last year. The county commissioners also need to be able to respect other elected officials.
One of the things, when she says the most important thing is to make sure people talk to the county commissioners and bring in input, you know, I look at it and say, okay, we all commute to Denver. We get home at 5:30, 6, 7 o'clock at night. We work during the day. County commissioners always have their meetings during the day. All of these boards that she talks about, the CUSP and the water and the planning commission and all of these, again, people would love to have input into those. But, gosh, they meet in the middle of the day. I don't know a lot of people that can take time off to do that. I think we lose a lot of talent in people that could really help, but they just can't make the meetings. The other thing is that I would like to see meetings moved around a little bit. Not every time. Nice room here. You could have a meeting here. And that's it.
Okay, Dick, this is from the vision categories. As a commissioner, what key infrastructure needs do you see for Park County? For the sake of time constraints, please limit your discussion to the 2 most important. So the 2 most important key infrastructure needs for Park County.
Number 1 is roads. Number 2 is probably roads. The biggest thing that the county needs to be able to do is provide roads for its citizens. I mean, you've got to be able to travel around. If you look at the cost of bad roads, not on the county, but on vehicles, you know, the amount of money that people spend fixing their car because they have to get a front end alignment. Roads are the #1 issue in this county. They always have been, they always will be. We've got 1,700 miles of roads in a very limited budget. It's difficult to figure out which roads, how to do the roads, but we have to do the roads. Beyond that, the other concern on the county is making sure we have emergency services. Well, emergency services are usually a separate tax district. They have their own funding source. We have the Sheriff's Department. That's funded by the county. But as far as infrastructure, roads. I know The county building is about ready to fall apart. I've walked around it. It's probably a good idea that we should start thinking about replacing some of the old structures, replacing some of the equipment that's used on roads. I don't know how else you can look at Park County and say that there are two infrastructure needs. There is really one. We have to do something about the roads. We have to try to figure out how to maintain the roads. We're always going to have a problem with that, but that is the #1 concern. We need to come up with a plan. I know there are plans out there on a rolling, this is how we're going to do it, on how many times a year a road's going to be graded. We need to take a look at that. We need to take a look at what roads. We need to see if we can expand our reach.
2 minutes, Lynda.
Well, roads are always an issue and always will be. Fortunately, the county has been able to purchase a lot of equipment over the past couple of years that we've never had before. A lot of it more automated, so it doesn't take 3 or 4 people and 1 piece of equipment to get something done. A lot of the people who are there now were trained on this equipment last year, so hopefully this summer we will see some better maintenance of the roads. There is a 5-year plan that has been working on for improving the roads, which roads would need more, or need chip and seal, for that example, based on the road counts. I don't believe that has been completed yet, but it should be at least by sometime in June or July. I would say the second biggest infrastructure needed would be making sure that every department, but particularly the Sheriff's Department, has the vehicles and the necessary equipment to, #1, keep themselves safe, as well as to keep us safe. As far as the equipment goes, that also goes with Road and Bridge. They need equipment, equipment for our telecommunications, and our 911 is constantly needing to be updated and is quite expensive. That's a high priority too. I still have 30 seconds, but I think those are my priorities.
All right, Dave, 1 minute.
Roads. Yeah, it's one of those. That always is the big issue. And I do like Lynda referring to Road and Bridge as Road and Bridge. They renamed it Public Works. I will never call it Public Works. It's always going to be Road and Bridge. The other thing, besides roads, would be communications. Where I am, I got great communications. Most of Park County, if you're driving along, you don't have cell phone service. I tried calling a couple of days when I was driving through South Park, and I think I rang the phone 7 times. It rang once, and that was the end of it. So that would be probably the second biggest issue that we have as far as infrastructure that I would have. And I know Mike has been working really hard in trying to get better cell service, better internet service, and all of those things that, they tie into safety. When you're out in the middle of nowhere, it's always nice to be able to know that if you have an accident, you can call somebody. So roads, probably communications.
Lynda, do you want to do 1 minute?
Oh, I wasn't sure where we were. Yes, I do want to say thank you so much to Mike Brazil, who has taken the lead on the telecommunications in the county. I believe, I hope my memory is correct, but I believe that there are 7 now in the county that pretty much either have went up or are in the process of going up since Mike took over. And that is going to be a big improvement, especially in places like around the reservoirs, where that has been a priority for Mike to get things in there. So when someone falls out of a boat or falls through the ice fishing, they don't have to go miles in order to be able to call for emergency services to come out. Again, Mike, thank you for your concern on this issue and your lead and your ability to be able to bring in millions of dollars from the state to help us improve our infrastructure here.
Okay, Lynda, you're up next. The next question will come from the attendees.
Oh, you did have 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Just right here.
Attendees, okay.
Thank you. Is there a maximum number of marijuana grow facilities and retail outlets, and what is that number? Somebody wants specifics. Maximum number of marijuana grow facilities and retail outlets, and what is that number, in your opinion?
The county just adopted recently new regulations concerning legal marijuana in the county. And right now, if my memory serves me correctly, we have 6 that are either operating or will be this summer. And the county commissioners put a maximum of 8. So that if someone after 8 wants to start a facility, they won't be able to unless someone else goes out of business. That was their decision to do that, because even though the vote was in Park County to approve marijuana as something that is legal, it was a pretty close vote, maybe 10 or 15 points off. And so this was a way to try and show that they supported both sides of the issue and not just let it go crazy. Right now there is no maximum on growth, and I think probably the reason for that is because they can be hidden totally out of sight. The regulations are so strict and it's so expensive to get started that not everybody can do that either. People have come in and they thought, oh wow, we're going to get rich, and then they find out it takes $1 million to $2 million to start an operation, and they don't have that kind of money, and they cannot, of course, get a loan to do it. So the issue really is the illegal grows and getting a handle on the illegal grows. And our sheriff is doing a good job on that with the amount of people that he has and the phone calls that he's been getting. I believe he said the other day that there are 32 cases that have been called in that he is investigating. 23 of those he's still investigating, and 3 have went to court.
2 minutes there.
The issue of marijuana is one of those that was kind of hoisted upon us by a rather unthinking population and a rather unthinking state government. Oregon passed theirs the same time we passed ours. They spent 2 years coming up with regulations. We said, hey, we're going to do it right now. As far as a maximum number, you know, I'd like to say that what we currently have is plenty. I can't, it's one of those that we really need to try to figure out how to limit it. If we had lines of people standing outside our dispensaries, I'd say, well, we probably don't have enough. But, you know, you drive through Lake George, you drive through these places, there's nobody standing outside, so I don't think we have an issue where we need more. I like what the commissioners did. I think it's 8. I'd have to take a look. I would like to see not many more go in, if any. I don't think you need more than 1 per community, and 6 is more than 1 per community. The grow facilities are the toughest. We don't have an issue with legal grow facilities to speak of. We do have a big issue with the illegal grows. That's going to be a tough issue to handle. You know, until we can figure out how to get a good handle on the illegal grows, it's really difficult to say how many legal grows can we have. I know I was talking to the undersheriff about one of their cases, and he said that you know, it was an illegal grow, and the guy was fined $1,000, and the judge reduced it to $100, and the guy said, fine, I'm going to move to another county. And the guy, and our undersheriff said, well, how much money did you actually make? And he said, well, you know, it's well worth it to pay the fine. Here's the money, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah,
Oh, I was just quickly jotting down where the legal grows are right now. There are two here, one on Crow Hill, one in Bailey. There's two near Fairplay, one close to the city limits and one a little further out on 285. And then there is one that is not yet operating, also, that will be going in at Antero Junction. There used to be a gas station and a grocery store and stuff there. I remember those from years ago. And that has been vacant commercial lands for a long time. And then also counted in with that 6 is the one in Alma, which the county commissioners have no control over. That is Alma's responsibility, but they did include that in the 6, and I was glad to see that they did that, not just ignore what was in somebody else's jurisdiction in the county. So that's where the 6 are, and I think that is plenty. I don't know where 2 more would want to go, and oops.
It's those hard stops.
Well, particularly when you're not looking that way.
One of the other things that I'm hoping that the commissioners look at, and it's a little late now on a couple of them, but the town of Fairplay has said we don't want any. So right outside the town of Fairplay, they've got some dispensaries. I really would like to take a look at it and say, you know, if a township says no, make it a couple of miles away, rather than, you know, you can't have it here. It's kind of like when you go from California to Nevada, and right on the border you have all of the gambling facilities. I hate to see that happen here. I would really not like to see a lot of more sales facilities go in. I think that's where one of your issues is trying to figure out how to control the illegal grows. I think that's where the biggest effort that we have in Park County will be. And who knows, maybe in a couple of years someone at the state will gain a little sanity and give us a little more help on trying to do that.
All right. Yeah, timekeeping seems like it's an easy job, but when you got 2, 2, 1, 1, and all this, I got confused a little bit last time myself. I would ask timekeeping, when you hold that sign up until you see that the candidate has seen the sign, and then you can put it down. Sometimes we're looking at notes or at other places in the audience. All right, Dick, I think it's your turn.
Yeah.
So another one from the attendees right here. Thank you. What knowledge, skills, abilities do you have that make you uniquely qualified to be a county commissioner?
Oh, I go first. Gosh. I live in Park County. I'm aware of all of the issues of Park County. I know Park County. I love Park County. That to me is the biggest thing that you need to become a commissioner. I really believe that our way of government is set up for citizen legislature. That you have citizens serve in the legislature, in county government. Board of County Commissioners is a quasi-legislative area. They pass laws, they do budgets. I don't think that it helps a lot if you bring people in that have got lots of government experience, because I think they lose track of what people really need and are really interested in doing. You know, there's always this, gee, we want more term limits. Why do we want term limits? Well, because we're tired of people that are in government, continuing in government, and just keep going. We need to stop that. We need to have people that are willing to come in. You look at our 2 commissioners now, 2 of them, neither one of them had government experience when they came in. I think that's great. They've got business experience. That's what I have. I'm an IT professional. I've been doing it for 40 years. I've worked in construction for Stearns Roger Construction. We built a power plant in Craig. I worked for Mobil Oil. We built a coal mine in Wyoming. We were going to build oil shale in Rifle, and if that would have gone through, you might not have seen me, because Rifle's a pretty spot too. But it's one of those that good business background, good business experience. As an IT contractor, I have been in just about every industry there is. You get lots of ideas when you go out and visit lots of places. I think that's what we need as a county commissioner.
Well, I have made it my business for the past 22 years to know the regulations, to be an involved citizen, to know what initiatives are out there and what ordinances are being worked on or have passed. I did that because that's what I wanted to do with my life. I did it as a volunteer, and I do not consider being a volunteer as someone who has been in government a long time. I do know people around the county, and I know what their issues are. I've worked on solving issues and finding solutions in the past. I also have some business experience, and I have worked with large budgets, put together and helped manage budgets in the county for 3 years. Those budgets were about half of what the budget is today, but it's still pretty large. And today I also manage the Land and Water Trust Fund budget, just because there were, I hate to say it, but there were a lot of issues and problems with the past finance director, and the budget was never right, and I'd always have to be going back to her. So I started keeping my the books and then condensing that so that all the members know exactly what has come in and what has been spent. I also have supervision experience in the oil and gas business. I was a field geologist and supervised all the people that were on contract with us and kept in touch constantly with the office back in Denver as well as our partners. I thought the stop was going up, so I just lost my train of thought. I'll think of it.
All right, Duke, 1 minute.
I too have supervisory experience when I worked for Stearns. I was the youngest field contract manager they'd ever had. It was kind of a unique situation. I had around $450 million worth of contracts that I was responsible for. Change orders, budgeting, scheduling. That was my job. That's why Mobil hired me. I was going to be their contract manager for the construction of their $5 billion oil shale project that was going in Rifle. Price of oil dropped. I didn't have to go to Rifle. They moved me to Gillette, Wyoming for a short time so I could build a coal mine. That wasn't as much fun. I've got lots of, as I say, good experience in a varied area. As a contractor in IT, you don't have the luxury of going into a place and saying, hey, I'm going to learn all about this, I'm going to take my time. When you get there, you have to start producing, you have to figure it out quickly, you have to understand what they need. It's one of the things that I want to bring to the commissioner's position is a lot of experience and a lot of, I can do it now.
Some other experience I have is 15 years covering the county commissioners for our Fair Play Flume, as well as an individual, spending time going to work sessions of the Planning Commission, and back then they had work sessions, and the regular meetings of the Planning Commission, as well as the work sessions and meetings of the county commissioners. I've really missed any since 1993. Because that was something I wanted to do. I wanted to know what was happening in my county and be able to give input on issues that were important to me. I'm a problem solver. I'm a fast learner. I've had experience in education as well, and also some psychology.
Hey, Lynda, you still up? I'll save you this seat. What is more important, development or preservation of the Bailey area?
Okay. The Bailey area.
And which is more important, development of the Bailey area
Yes.
or preservation?
I don't believe there's a lot of land yet to develop in the Bailey area. Most of it has been subdivided. There are a few large ranches left. and I hope that they stay ranching. And as far as preservation, there's not too much here to preserve or to look at in terms of preservation either, except for the ranches. And I think that it is a toss-up. I really can't say which would be more important, because there are a lot of commercial areas in the Bailey area where there are buildings that are sitting empty, and it would be wonderful to see some businesses come in there that would provide jobs for people who live in the county, and also help take some of the tax burden off of the few businesses that we do have. When we have new development, though, it very well must fit in with the character of the Bailey area. I don't think anybody wants to see the character of the area change and for us to start looking like downtown. We left downtown for a reason. I would like to see a public outdoor park here, something like what they have in Jefferson in their open space program. I think that is one need that we do have here, and that would be one thing. You could call it development. It really would be preservation, but it would provide activities and a place for people to go here to ride their bikes, or take their horses, or get a bunch of people together to play a game or something. And I know there's been a little bit of effort to look at places, and I hope that that comes to a conclusion soon.
When I was growing up in Denver, one of the places we would come to every summer to spend a week was Moordale. If you don't know what Moordale is, it's got Sweet Fanny Adams on the part. It was basically a dude ranch. They had horses there. It was an absolutely great place. You can fish, all those things. Glen Isle was the other place that you could go. I would love to see both of those viable, running again. You look at downtown Bailey. There used to be a lot of really good restaurants in downtown Bailey. Well, there aren't there anymore. You know, it's when you say development, I would look at what can we do with existing structures, existing facilities, and encourage businesses to come in and use them. When they start filling up and we can show people that there is a need and people can open a business, well, then I would like to say, yes, we need to start some more businesses up here. It helps taxes, helps the school district. But we have to do things that make Bailey a really nice place to be. We don't want to, mess it up. There's room to do some expansion, but it needs to be done thoughtfully. It needs to fit into the environment of Bailey. Now, if you extend Bailey to up here, there's some room around here. I know over the years there have been rumors of a King Soopers going in. DCM, who built trusses, was going to locate here. You've got all these rumors of things that are going to happen, and none of them happen. I'd love to see some development up here. Maybe some office buildings, small ones, that are nicely put together. You see that around Genesee. I don't know if there'd be the demand, but if we have the broadband up here at the library, you've got some areas that you can build some really nice places for people that need a place to work rather than working out of their office but don't want to drive to Denver.
1 minute.
Well, in my opinion, we have 4 good restaurants in Bailey, and I don't remember when there was ever more than that, to tell you the truth. But regardless, the strategic master plan that the Planning Commission will probably adopt, it is on the schedule next month, does encourage redevelopment of the empty buildings that are vacant now, as far as commercial areas go here in the Bailey area, and also encourages businesses that fit into the businesses that fit into the look and the feel of the area, and especially in tourism. And I too greatly miss both the Moordale and I just went blank. The Glen Isle, thank you. Stayed at those places many, many times when friends and family of mine came out. But in my opinion, there are many buildings out there that need to be filled first. Let's fill up those buildings before we start thinking about building new buildings anywhere. And make sure that everything that comes in is something that is going to be a benefit to the residents and hopefully, not hopefully, but must provide jobs. He says I have 30 seconds, but
yeah,
that does it. I
kind
kind
of
of
minute and a half, I believe there. So
yeah.
Got a minute and a half if you want. So Greg, if you could time it for a minute and a half.
No, I was first, so I had 2. She
That was
would have
it.
had 2, so I get 1, don't I?
No, Lynda went first, so she had just
Oh,
finished
she
her
go
one.
first. See, you have trouble keeping track. I have trouble keeping track. One of the things I'd like to see happen in Bailey is some way to figure out a little more parking. I would love to be able to do something along the river. You know, every place that has a river walk, you look at Alma, they've got a bike path, they have the river walk. It attracts a lot of people. Being able to do something like that in Bailey, I think would be just a great help. One of my concerns is the Land Trust Fund, or money that we have, is going to fund Guffey Gulch. Well, the people in Guffey really need that fixed. I'm not sure it should be a Land and Water Trust Fund, because that water, when you say Park County, well, it's 3/4 of a mile from Teller County, so I'm not sure all of the money we spend there should go in that area. And if it does, well, that's fine. I think they also need to look at helping us with our river in Bailey, where you get people from Denver driving up to the edge of it in their vehicles, dropping cans in, you know, making a mess with their picnics. Well, you know, if one part of Park County deserves something, I think Bailey deserves something. We need to really concentrate on how do we make that a place where people from Denver can stop. Because if they stop and go fishing, they stop and go picnicking, we got a store. They forgot their ice, they can get ice. We've got restaurants. That's where the development, I think, of Bailey should be.
All right, Dick, you're up. Thank you. What will you do to rein in the Park County Building and Zoning Department desires to make this county's regs more restrictive than Lakewood or Boulder?
That is a good one, because I think they are. I really think they're a little out of control. I was at the last board meeting, and I probably frustrated Mike an awful lot and the other commissioners, because they were talking about the idea of camping and putting a 2-week limit on how you could camp. And then they said, well, we'll make it this, and then we'll do this. And they kept saying things like, well, it'll be free. But I'm not too sure the planning and zoning group, the ones that actually write it, are really aware of what the commissioners are saying. My contention was that the regulations that the commissioners had in front of them, which I had pulled the morning that they were going to be supposedly talking about it, possibly voting on it, said that the camping had to have this type of permit. Well, if you look that up in the land use regulations, it was $530 to do that. So if you wanted to camp beyond 2 weeks on your property, it was going to cost you $530. I really think that our building department has gone overboard in the way they are doing things. I think they're costing people a lot of money that they don't need to. We've got sheriff's department, we've got teachers, you've got a lot of people up here that would love to live in Park County, but they can't afford to live in Park County, because before you build a house, you've got to invest $25,000 in permits and you know, all of the other infrastructure. So it just gets too expensive. They're starting, I think, to catch on. They're reducing the size of the minimum house. down to where it's something that someone can afford to build to get started. But until the commissioners really give a little better direction, I don't think we're going to be able to reduce those. And it,
This was about the building department, correct?
Yes.
Not planning or development services,
Park
the
County
building?
Building and Zoning.
Okay,
zoning is,
that's what I thought. Well, the issue several times in the past has been that there hasn't been equal application of the codes that are used in building. That is an international code. It's adopted throughout the United States, and that's what we use as well as most places in Colorado. We do need to train our employees to have the mindset that customer service is first on their mind. Most important is first. They are dealing with their employer when they are out there in the field, and they need to show respect. And they need to not make life more difficult because maybe somebody said something they didn't like. I've seen that happen too, where a septic inspector wanted to pull somebody's license because he swore at him. Well, of course, he shouldn't be swearing at a county employee that's trying to do his job, but still, you don't react that way and try to get their license pulled by the county commissioners. So I think a lot of the issues would be solved if we had proper training on employees on how to deal with other people, their employers, out in the field, and that everything is applied equally. I think what really could use some work is some of the restrictiveness of our septic regulations. Now there again, the state just adopted new ones and we had to up ours a little bit, but the specifics, that was general. The specifics are what are the issue. And I was talking to Jay Hutchison from Hartselle about he does septic systems in Chaffee County, and they don't have. I'll finish that in my 1 minute.
Okay, 1 minute.
one of the things that they're looking at is adopting the 2012 International Building Codes. When I built my house, codes were about 500 pages. This one's 1,600. It has items in it that are required by code, like radon mitigation. You have to do radon mitigation. Well, I don't have a place that's got a radon problem. Well, no, you still have to spend the money and prove that you've done radon mitigation. One thing I would like the building department to do before they adopt any new code is to do a cost analysis. Figure out how much it's going to cost the people building a house to put in these new regulations. And then take a look at, okay, we can put in these regulations, but we can also write out of those regulations certain sections. You do have that ability. You can do the same thing with septics. I mean, the state provides a lot of guidelines. We don't have to follow them. We just have to kind of come close. We can write our way out of a lot of these, except these with exceptions for Park County. Because the state tries to do things to fit Denver, not rural communities.
Well, the state regulations are not guidelines, I'm sorry. They're required. They're regulations. They're required. If they were guidelines, they wouldn't be called regulations. Anyway, oh, I was talking about the septic regulations in Jay Hutchison, and he does septic systems both here and in Chaffee County, and the regulations basically are the same because they have to follow the state, but there's a lot more little requirements that are in Park County's regulations that are more restrictive. You can always be more restrictive than the state regulations, but you can't be less restrictive. And so I think that is an issue too. We need to look at what the building and septic codes are that really are elective, and are those things really necessary, or are they just adding more cost to the bottom line of someone building a home?
Okay, Lynda, you're up. Thank you. What are the cost impacts of regulations and codes on Park County home prices?
Well, if you're building a home, then you already have your property, and then the cost. Would you just read that one more time, make sure I understand it?
What are the cost impacts of regulations and codes on Park County home prices?
Okay. I was going the wrong direction. Well, of course, when anybody sells a place, they want to make more than what they paid. If they have to do upgrades to it, of course, they're going to add that onto the price of the home. So there is an impact on home prices and what they will sell for. And we are seeing home prices rise some right now, again, for the first time in several years. And we need also getting back to the building codes and septic codes. That is an important reason for us to really take a look at what can be eliminated, because all of those costs to the homeowner is going to be added on when they sell the house in order to get their money back out of it and hopefully make a little bit of profit, which you can't blame them for.
Dave, 2 minutes.
There are two areas for the cost. One area is an existing home that's being sold, and the other one is building a new home. If you look at building a new home, that's where you get into the standards with radon and a lot of the new things. The Home Builders Association, I think, has pegged costs of increased regulation and fees at around 25% of the price of a house now. Now, Park County, that's going to be a little different because we don't have sewer taps, water taps, some of those things that they considered in there. But still, a septic, an average septic system now in Park County is $10,000. And it's because of all of the regulations that are involved in doing that. Driveway permits are expensive. Building permits are expensive. All of those go into the cost of the house, which makes it a lot more difficult for someone to afford a house they could live in. If you look at the other side, where I have a house that I want to sell, well, you know, the new building codes, or I think it was there or somewhere else, they said, you got to have a radon inspection before you can sell your house. Okay, that costs money. You have to do mitigation. That costs money. There are a lot of people in this county that are non-compliant now in their septic systems. I was talking to one a couple of days ago out on the west side, and he said he can't really sell his house because his septic is now non-compliant, and the county has said, you know, if you're going to sell your house, you're going to have to put in a new septic system before you can sell your house. I talked to someone else who said, you know, they wouldn't give me an occupancy on my barn because my septic system wasn't big enough. And it's like barns have nothing to do with septic system. These are all of the regulations that go in, and they help build up the price of the house without helping the individual.
Yes, whether it's county regulations or state regulations such as radon and mitigation, it does definitely add. One thing that I do think that is could be looked at is particularly in when you are pulling a permit to build something other than your house, like you're adding the barn. I know which person he's talking about there, and then they say, well, we have to test your septic to make sure it is working correctly, even though, or that it's, you know, meets the regulations, even though it was functioning properly. That's the kind of thing that can be used to reduce, is to get rid of things like that. If you're adding on to your house and you're adding more bedrooms, you're going to have more people there, yes, then the septic is important. But if you're adding a barn or you're redoing your deck, then why? Why have to go to that expense again? So that is definitely one area that could be looked at to reduce the cost.
Okay. Dick, you got 1 minute?
Anytime the government gets involved in anything, it always seems it's going to cost you some money. And that goes with this. I mean, the regulations that keep getting put into place just really hamstring people that are trying to start off and build a home. As I say, the county is coming around to the viewpoint that we can have a 250, 300 square foot home, which a while ago you couldn't have. So it ups the price. If you have to build a minimum size house, you're going to end up with paying a lot more, and it's going to impact people. The regulations, when I built my house, it was really simple. I had the state do the electrical. Dick Worrell came out and put his level on my pipe and said, yep, it's flowing downhill. Other than that, it was easy to build in Park County, and you could build a quality house without spending a lot.
Good. Dick, you're up. Thank you.
Keep standing.
What, and this question may come on to the last one somewhat, but it is different. What are your ideas for creating affordable housing within Park County?
Park County's got 20,000 lots that are vacant. Some of those lots, they keep saying, well, they're too small to put a house on. Okay, someone buys that lot, they want to put a house, it's a couple acres. You know, they can put on the house. The biggest thing that I think Park County needs to be able to do is, one, figure out a way to help people that want to build, that can't necessarily afford all of the upfront costs, and take a look at, can we say, okay, these are permits that you'll have to pay. We'll put them as a lien on your property that you can pay off over time, so they can afford to. When you look at that, you've got to spend $2,200 to get a building permit. That's pretty expensive. We can do a lot that way. We can encourage smaller homes. You know, we always see the tiny house movement. I'm not too sure I'd go all the way with the tiny house movement, because, gosh, that'd be too claustrophobic for me. But I mean, we can do things to encourage people to build smaller houses. We could go to some of these subdivisions where the lots are too small or are small, and work with a developer and say, is there a way we can start combining lots to do a little bit better job? Is there a way we can make it a community where we share the costs? I mean, Will-o'-the-Wisp was I think one of the biggest battles we've ever had in Park County when they wanted to develop that, because it was high density housing. Well, it's not really high density housing, but it's something that we can try to encourage to share costs for facilities and allow people to have a house that they can afford in areas of Park County where we can use that type of growth.
Well, even affordable housing is kind of an oxymoron, because it's hard to build a house for what some people can afford. That's why I am glad to see that the county commissioners have decided to lower the minimum square footage of a home, and this was done particularly because of the issue out in South Park, where people are living in tents or in just a tiny home shell with nothing there. And fortunately, there's been one builder in the area, in Park County, who has stepped up to the plate and has put together 2 or 3 different plans for a house, and also is now working on a small reduced septic, and is going to help some of the lower income out there be able to get into a house for not near the money as if they were doing it alone. And I commend that guy tremendously. I have his name written down in my book here, but I'm not going to look for it. Another thing to provide more affordable housing is multifamily homes or apartments. There's a couple down in Bailey. They filled up pretty fast. That shows that there's a need for more. And there are places where you can put multifamily homes in a very, very small area. There's another one up behind Bailey that was ready. I'm not sure if it went to the Planning Commission or what the issue was there, but it had to have been to the Planning Commission because they withdrew it after it had been scheduled with the county commissioners. So I hope whatever the issue was there, that gets worked out. It was on a pretty steep slope, and that might have been part of the issue. I'm not sure. But we need to try and encourage people to come in here and do more multifamily homes.
All right, 1 minute, Dick.
One of the things that always worries me is when you say, well, there's this builder that's working on it. I love builders that can do that and can help. But as I say, I built my house myself. And it wasn't one of those where I hired contractors. I came up here and put up the forms and did all that work, learned a little bit about concrete. I've got one wall that is about 3 feet thick at the bottom because the form didn't hold. But at the top it's the right dimension, so it works. But if there's a nuclear attack, you're all welcome to come over and lean up against that wall. I really would like to see and allow people to build their own home. And that gets really, really difficult by the time you deal with the county and everything else. I had problems with the state electrical inspector because he was union and I opened my mouth and that caused issues. But it's something that we need to let people build their own houses in a way that's safe.
Well, I honestly don't think that most people have the skills or the knowledge to build their own house. People who do, that's fantastic, go for it. I don't think there's anything stopping them now except for getting their building plans stamped by an engineer. Wow, I guess it must be getting late because I had a whole thing here and I just totally spaced out what it was. Again, getting rid of some of the regulations or reducing the regulations so that it's not so expensive. We have no control over what contractors are going to charge, but we certainly have control over how expensive our building and septic permits are and what is required there. And that would help reduce the price of all housing, not just affordable housing. But I think the focus really should be on multifamily housing.
All right, this will be our last question so that we have time for them to do their closing statements and be done around 8:30. And now, Lynda. I have heard that land use regulations were enforced by the county in the past. Now it seems that LURs can be ignored without consequences from the Park County. For example, commercial and residential industrial firewood sale. Will you enforce?
No, what was
you
it?
read that?
Yeah.
I have heard that land use regulations were enforced by the county in the past. Now it seems that LURs can be ignored without consequences from Park County. For example, commercial and residential, industrial, firewood sales. Will you enforce LURs?
There does need to be better enforcement of the regulations and the land use regulations as well as our ordinances. That is true. There's one code enforcement right now one code enforcement officer right now in the county, and that one person just can't cover everywhere. A new one is going to be hired, so there will be 2 code enforcement officers in the county. That may help a little bit, but there's no reason having regulations on the book if they aren't enforced. And there has to be equal enforcement across the board and consistent enforcement. Now, it does take a long time if a property owner doesn't comply once a code enforcement officer has went out there. And it could take up to a year or 2 years if you have to go all the way through the courts in order to get something enforced. So a lot of times it may look like nothing is being done when really a lot has been done, and the county is spending money, particularly to an attorney, in order to get the codes enforced through the courts. I would like to see the attorney fees for enforcing the codes reduced a little bit, but if someone is not going to comply and ignores you as the county code enforcement officer, there's not much you can do except take them to court. But I will actively work to make sure that our codes are enforced. That is primary. Like I said, if you have codes, then they need to be enforced, period. There's no reason making a regulation if you don't enforce it. That's just a waste of everybody's time, and it makes the county look bad, and people would disrespect the county for not enforcing.
Good. 2 minutes.
Code enforcement is always one of those issues that's difficult. If you call around to some of the other counties, they all run under the same way that we run. It's complaint driven. They don't have people running around enforcing codes. Those are HOAs that want you to pull dandelions and things. But anyway, so it's going to be complaint driven. If someone files a complaint, we need to go out and look at it. If it's a violation of the codes, we need to do something about it. Period. I look at it in 2 ways. If we enforce the codes, you'll have people say, well, we don't like those codes, they are unreasonable, and we can change the bad codes, or we can start cleaning things up. It's expensive to do. As you said, you know, it's one that, gee, here's your citation, okay, you have to clean it up, you didn't clean it up, okay, now we're going to take you to court. You take them to court, it's going to cost money. You can make a decision at that time as to how far you want to pursue it. If it's something that's happening on vacant land that isn't worth a lot, it's going to be really expensive for the county because you'll never recover it. If it's someone that has got some property that has some value, well, the county has got all kinds of ways they can recover it. If it's a true violation that neighbors were complaining about, you take them to court, you win. The county attorneys will be paid by the people that were violating the code. In almost every case, the judge will award court costs. So, okay, now we get all of our costs back. You say, well, they've got to pay it. Well, you put a lien on their property. It's now a tax lien. When they sell their property, that goes with it. So you've guaranteed that the county will get most of their money back. It's an ugly way to go. Anytime you get into that, it's not something that I, as a Republican, like the government going in and forcing people. But you do get to a point where you do have to do something like that. I would prefer the county try to work with them.
Lynda, 1 minute.
Yes, I think the county does try to work with them, and that is very much a priority. A lot of code enforcement is complaint driven. In Park County, and I'm sure in other counties too, the employees are also responsible if they see a violation to make sure that the proper department is aware of that. As far as recovery costs, I don't think the county has ever recovered any of the costs. You may put a lien on the property, but you know, you may not get anything either, because granted, you're not going to be the first lien that's on that property. And I don't remember the exact figure, but a few years ago when a guy out in South Park by the last name of Ricardo, we went all the way to the court because it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And there was no way the county received even a fraction of the cost, because then they also went in and cleaned up what was a very hazardous area. So, and I think that's it. See, I'm looking down every time that sign goes up.
The county can recover their costs, and they have. In 2000, I think it was 2000, they filed several suits. No, it was 2008. They filed several suits against people. They recovered the money on a lot of those. You do recover the money. It does cost the county because you don't recover it all the time, but then that's what the county is there for. I know the one she was talking about, it was in the Hartselle area. It was one of those that someone said, hey, this is a mess. And the county didn't do anything. They didn't do anything for a couple of years. And then when finally they did do something, it cost $22,000 to clean it up. We're never going to recover that. That's where code enforcement, if someone is in violation, you start immediately, especially if it's going to be a health hazard. And that's what that one turned out to be.
All right, we're at the closing statements, and Dick, you're first on that, 4 minutes.
Thank you for putting up with this. I haven't seen anybody, really want to throw anything or anybody leave yet, so that's really kind of cool. One thing I'd like to say, I feel that the way the current county government is being run, and it goes to a lot of areas, is it's trying to isolate itself from the people. That's where I get into, the county commissioners really need to look at, can they have a meeting in Bailey? Especially if it's an issue that's important to the Bailey people. Can they have them at night? All of these things are possible. They just need to say, we're going to do that. If it's an important issue, let's have it at a time when people can show up. If it's an important issue to an area, let's have it at a time when they can go there. The other thing is, there are lots of advisory boards, water districts, all these things that the commissioners have control over who they appoint. You never see anything, or at least the average person never sees anything about who's on that committee, who's on that board. Oh, and by the way, they meet during the day also. Anything that the county commissioners have control over, they really need to say, you have to meet at night so the people in this county can see what's going on and understand. And once they start doing that, I think you'll probably get more people involved and more people interested because they can. If you look at both school boards in this county, they meet in the evening. Why is that? Well, parents like to go to the school board meetings occasionally to see what's going on. That's what we need to start doing as a county, is we need to figure out how we can work with the people here so they can get more involved. One of the, boy, I'm really talking funny now. The website that the county has is supposed to have everything that the commissioners are going to act on. Either it's terribly not up to date, because when I pulled it, it said one thing, and I'm pretty sure that's what the commissioners had, but someone else said, oh no, that's not it. We need to be able to make sure that people have what the commissioners are going to talk about and possibly vote on at a time period prior to. So when the commissioners say, hey, we would like to have some public input, you actually have people that know what public input's going to be about and can attend and have some type of an idea. We've got, the Land and Water Conservation Trust Fund. It's 1% of our money. Does anybody know who the board members are? Anybody know what it does? Anybody knows where it meets? It's one of those. These are issues that are important to some of us, but it's difficult to find out. CUSP, Coalition of the Upper South Platte. 2013, when I went out and looked to see when their last minutes were, 2013. This was an organization that had a certain elected official as its president, and another person who was related to that as the secretary, who decided to issue to themselves a contract for 80 hours a month to maintain the books. I can't find any place where that went out for bid, was an open discussion. It kind of sounds like people in some of these committees are doing things to take care of themselves. I think we really, as a county, need to say, enough is enough. We want accountability out of everybody and everything. And we also want to know how to get on these boards, when they meet, when they're appointed, so we can start trying to break this up. It's a small group that just keeps going from board to board to board to board. We need to figure out how to break it up to get more people involved so we get new ideas.
Well, most of my closing speech has already been covered by the questions, but I do want to take a couple of minutes here to address the issue that the advisory boards, there's no way to find out who's on them, what they're doing, and where they meet. They are all the boards are listed along with the board members on the county website. All you have to do is click, and you can also sign up in order to get notices of their agendas and when and where they meet. It's all a matter of doing that. It's there. All you have to do is do it, is go. Now, the one issue is that all you need is 24 hours notice, and that's why sometimes you think something's going to be at the county commissioners and it turns out it's not, or you weren't aware of something. I always check after that 24 hours, like say afternoon on Tuesday, I check, so I know that's what's going to be there. Afternoon on Wednesday, you check, so you know what's going to be there. Water districts, they are not part of the county government. I have no idea what elected official that was in CUSP paid themselves $80 for the bookkeeping. I am a director on the board of CUSP. I've been there a couple of times, once back in the 90s, and then before I was a commissioner, and now I've been on it for about 4 years again. It is an organization that is composed of a lot of governments in Colorado, not just here. We've always had a bookkeeper, and we always have had an auditor. And I can't think of any county commissioner that has been on the board before, except for, well, not when he was county commissioner, Bob Barford, but and myself. But I don't know of anyone who paid themselves any money. So I would like to know where that is coming from, and maybe we can talk later about where you got your information, because if that's true, I would certainly disagree that it is a correct or ethical thing to do. I will be a full-time commissioner, and I will work as hard as all the other county's dedicated employees. I will have no learning curve, and I will hit the ground running, working either in the office or on other commissioner duties outside of the office. I will provide strong financial management and work to reduce the size of budget increases each year. I will work to keep our productive, talented employees and reduce the high turnover departments like Road and Bridge. And I would definitely treat all local, other elected officials with respect. I will treat elected officials with respect because they are an equal constitutional officer. Should have been drinking before. I will encourage communities to become fire-wise and to adopt wildfire protection plans. We really need to encourage this throughout the county. There are many other things I have here, but my time is running out. I do believe that the commissioners should work for all the citizens of the county in all areas of the county, no matter what district you come from. And we need to all work for consensus that reflects public opinion, but yet not compromise our values.
Alrighty. I want to thank you guys for attending, and I want to thank the candidates for their attention to the timekeeper. It allowed us to move along, and I think we got a couple questions from the PCRCC and 7 questions from the audience. There are 3 more debates, and I think hopefully by the time we get through these 3 debates, these other 3 debates will have answered most of the questions that people have in their minds. My Mountain Town has recorded this, and it will be uploaded to that website, mymountaintown.com, and let your friends know about it. And I also want to thank the Beasleys and the Saps and Obrecht and Greg and the other Greg. It's good to see a young man involved, keeping the time, watching the time. Appreciate y'all coming out. And we've got about 25-30 minutes here.